Good day, family. Welcome back to another Kwababa review, and honestly, today's episode had me talking to my TV screen like the characters could actually hear me. If you've been following this storyline, you already know the tension between Mambokazi and Zweliki has been building for weeks, and today it finally boiled over. So grab your tea, get comfortable, because we have a lot to unpack, from Kwab's bitterness, to Mambukazi's drug troubles, to that Sangoma visit that left me sitting up straight on my couch. Let's get into it. We open on a heavy scene between Zwelakhe and Mambukazi, and you can feel immediately that something has shifted in their relationship. Zwelakhe is done waiting. He tells his mother, plainly, that he is not the son of Mambukazi, and that the family has been living upside down because of a lie she has been protecting for years. What struck me here is how calm he was. This wasn't the shouting, dramatic Zwelakhe we've seen in earlier episodes. This was a man who has clearly done his own thinking and arrived at his own conclusion, with or without his mother's confirmation. And can we talk about how Mambukazi handled it? She didn't deny it outright, but she also didn't give him anything solid. That's the frustrating part about her character right now. She's giving us these small, cryptic admissions, these half-truths, but never the full picture. If you're a mother watching this show, you understand the writers are trying to show us how painful it is to be confronted with a truth you've spent a lifetime avoiding. But as a viewer, I need answers, and I need them soon, because dragging out a paternity secret for this many episodes is starting to test my patience. Zwelakhe eventually turns to Ball, and this scene honestly broke my heart a little. He tells her flat out that he no longer knows who he is, that Mambukazi might not even be his real surname, and that his entire identity feels upside down. Ball, to her credit, doesn't sugarcoat anything. She tells him directly that this confusion is affecting how he's showing up, even in decisions as big as the lobola negotiations. She's basically saying, baby, I have lost you in all of this, and this man in front of me looks too confused to move forward with marriage right now. I actually appreciated this moment because it grounded the storyline in something real. It's not just about Zwelakhe's identity crisis in isolation, it's about how that crisis is bleeding into his relationship, his plans, his future. Ball reminds him that families need clarity before a marriage like this can proceed, and honestly, she's right. You can't build a home with someone who doesn't even know his own foundation. Now let's talk about the storyline that has me rolling my eyes every single week, Mambukazi and his drug dealings. I know some of you enjoy the drama, but for me, this has become the weakest link in an otherwise gripping season. In today's episode, Mambukazi is once again warning someone to keep quiet, treating information like it's a life or death secret, and honestly the tension just isn't landing the way the writers want it to. It feels recycled. We've seen this exact beat, the hushed warning, the nervous glance, the "don't tell anyone" one too many times now. What I will say is that this subplot does connect back to Kwab in an interesting way. Kwab has apparently moved on with his life, new job, a wife who helped him secure that position, and a fresh start away from the family home. And yes, before you ask, the Isuzu product placement was doing the absolute most this episode. Practically every second character seems to be driving one. But even with his new job and his new direction, Kwab still hasn't let go of the business. He still sees himself as Inkosana, the rightful heir, the one meant to inherit and look after everything. It's honestly just a matter of time before the rest of the family realizes he's quietly positioning himself to reclaim that role, and I have a feeling that when Zwelakhe's paternity is finally revealed, Kwab is going to use it as his opening. In the middle of all this heaviness, we do get a lighter scene, the arrival of a baby, celebrated with real warmth by the family. There's singing, there's joy, and for a brief moment the show lets us breathe. The baby is welcomed with love, and even Mambukazi seems to soften for a moment, though you can tell the weight of her secret is still sitting on her shoulders even as she smiles for the cameras. It's a nice reminder that this family, for all its dysfunction, still knows how to come together for the good moments too. But that softness doesn't last long. Later in the episode, Kwababa, the family elder, steps forward and makes it clear that Zwelakhe, since he isn't a rightful Mambukazi by blood, cannot simply assume a leadership position in the family the way his age or status might otherwise suggest. This is a gut punch for Zwelakhe, who is already reeling from the identity questions, and now he's being told that even his place in the family hierarchy is in question. This is where the family starts openly pressing Mambukazi. They tell her, essentially, you cannot keep hiding from this truth forever. We want to know what actually happened in your past. And I have to say, the way Mambukazi is written in this scene, proud, composed, but visibly cornered, is genuinely one of the better acting moments of the episode. She is respected in this family, almost seen as an honorable woman, and yet everyone can tell she's hiding something about Zwelakhe's real father. The family gives her an ultimatum of sorts. This week is her chance to finally set the record straight. If I'm honest, I don't think she's going to use that chance. Mambokazi has been running from this storyline for what feels like forever, and if the writers make her confess this easily, it almost feels too soon given how much build-up we've had. I expect more stalling, more evasive answers, and maybe another twist before we get the full truth. Now for the juicy part, the actual paternity mystery. The family is desperate to know who is Zwelakhe's real father. Is it still Mambukazi, or someone else entirely? Here's an interesting wrinkle the show throws at us. Mambukazi's own father, we're reminded, passed away only recently. Which technically means Zwelakhe could still be Mambukazi's biological son, just born through Kwab's side of the family in some capacity. But then you have to ask yourself, if that's the case, why does Kwab hate Zwelakhe so intensely? If Kwab were truly his father, or even a close blood relative in the way the show is hinting, wouldn't there be some flicker of paternal instinct, some softness underneath the resentment? Instead, what we see is pure animosity, which makes me lean toward the theory that Kwab is not the father at all, and his hatred is rooted in something else entirely, jealousy, perhaps, over inheritance, or resentment tied to whatever happened between him and Mambukazi in the past. The family, understandably, does not want to go through another prolonged bow, another drawn-out family scandal, especially with Zwelakhe and Baal's wedding already hanging in the balance. There's real anxiety in these scenes about the timing of it all. Every time this family gets close to celebrating something, whether it's a wedding or a business milestone, another problem surfaces and delays it. It's become almost a running joke at this point, but the tension it creates is genuinely effective storytelling, even if it's frustrating to watch as a viewer who just wants the wedding to happen already. There's also a beautifully written, quieter moment where an older family member turns to Zwelakhe and tells him something like, "No matter what you discover, you have to promise me you'll hold on to your strength. Because whatever truth is coming, it may not be easy to face." It's the kind of line that lands differently once you know what's coming, and what's coming, according to this episode, is confirmation that Zwelakhe is not blood-related to the siblings he grew up believing were his own. The show then shifts to Slendile, who it turns out has known the truth about Zwelakhe's parentage for a long time. Her own brother, in a private conversation, urges her to finally tell the boy, Zwelakhe, the truth about who his real father is. But Slendile shuts the conversation down almost immediately, telling her brother to stay out of her business. It's her business, she insists, and hers alone. This is such a classic soap opera device, surrounding your protagonist with multiple people who know the truth but refuse to share it, and while it can feel like padding, I think it works here because it shows just how deep this secret goes. It's not only Mambukazi protecting this information. There's a whole network of people who have chosen silence over honesty, and that raises the stakes for when the truth finally does come out. It won't just be Mambukazi who has to answer for the lie, it'll be everyone who helped keep it buried. Zwelakhe, for his part, isn't backing down. He goes directly to his mother again and demands to know more about her history, her background, where she was raised, anything that might shed light on who he really is. But Slendile, still unwilling to let go of the information she holds, keeps stonewalling him too. Here's where the episode really escalates. We learn that next week, Zwelakhe is done asking politely. He's going to take matters into his own hands and request a DNA test with his siblings. And according to the preview beats woven into this episode, that test is going to confirm what many of us have suspected for a while now: Zwelakhe is not biologically related to the people he has called his brothers and sisters his entire life. This is a massive turning point for the show. Once that DNA result becomes public, everything changes. Zwelakhe's place in the family, his claim to any inheritance, his relationship with Mambukazi, even his upcoming marriage to Bob, all of it gets thrown into new uncertainty. I am honestly both excited and nervous for how the writers handle the fallout, because this is the kind of reveal that can either elevate a season or completely derail it depending on the execution. Meanwhile, over in a separate but connected storyline, Mambokazi is dealing with his own crisis of conscience. He's frustrated that his father seems easily influenced by certain people around him, manipulative figures who appear to be steering family decisions in ways that don't sit right with Mambokazi. Unlike some other characters on this show, Mambokazi isn't someone who gets pushed around easily, and he makes it clear he's not willing to let his father make major decisions that could shape the futures of his own children, without understanding what's really going on. So he does what any determined character does in a telenovela: he sneaks into his father's private space to search for documents. And, predictably, because he's rushing and trying not to get caught, he leaves the place a mess, the papers pulled out and not put back neatly, drawers slightly ajar. It's the kind of detail that tells you this isn't going to stay hidden for long. Someone is going to notice that room has been disturbed, and I have a feeling that discovery is going to cause its own separate explosion of drama in the coming episodes. One of the most intriguing moments of the entire episode comes when Zwelakhe visits a Sangoma. The traditional healer tells him that his ancestors are searching for him, that his people are calling out for him. The implication is heavy: Zwelakhe may have been living under the wrong surname this entire time, using Mambukazi when his real ancestral lineage lies elsewhere. His actual ancestors, his real Madlozi, are out there, and they want to be acknowledged. This scene ties everything together beautifully. It's not just a paternity mystery anymore, it's a spiritual crisis too. In many South African households, your surname isn't just a label, it connects you to your ancestors, your clan, your identity in a much deeper cultural sense. So if Zwelakhe truly isn't a Mambukazi, this isn't only a legal or biological revelation, it's a spiritual rupture that could explain a lot of the unease and disconnection he's been feeling throughout this season. Can we just take a moment to acknowledge how long we've been waiting for the wedding between Zwelakhe and Mambukazi? At this point I think we're all echoing the same sentiment: please, Kwababa, let this wedding happen. I understand the drama needs to build, but there's a difference between meaningful delay and dragging things out purely for the sake of extra episodes. This storyline has genuinely started to wear on me, and I know I'm not alone in that. The episode closes on a tense domestic scene involving Dumasaine's household. Amidst all this family chaos, Dumasaine's wife has clearly had enough. She decides she no longer wants to be tied down by the constant family drama and heads home to get some space and clear her head. What really stood out to me is her confrontation with Mambokazi before she leaves. She calls him out directly, accusing him of never standing up for her, of always deferring to his father no matter the situation. She tells him plainly that he doesn't act like a man with his own voice, that he's essentially his father's shadow, agreeing to whatever Dumasaine says without ever pushing back. It's a brutal but fair critique, and honestly, watching Mambokazi's face in that moment, you could tell it landed. Whether this becomes a turning point for his character, whether he finally starts asserting himself, both with his father and in his marriage, remains to be seen. But it sets up an interesting internal conflict for him heading into next week. Does he keep playing the obedient son, or does he finally find that voice his wife says he's been missing? Overall, this was a strong episode for the paternity storyline and a slightly weaker one for the Mambukazi subplot, which continues to feel like filler compared to everything else happening around it. Mambukazi's refusal to come